competitors in the market, for gaining more share, they opt some strategies, they alter their strategies to get more and more market share. So that condition in which the players apply for different strategies to get the more gain, that is the environment which we talk about is as a game theory. So what is a game? You can say a situation where the players are there and they both or all the players, they will opt or they will move, they'll take some steps. What their objective will be, like in any game, what the objective of the player used to be, to win the game. So here also the players will take steps, or you can say will take some actions, and in return they will expect some return which they want to maximize. Okay, so like a situation, let's suppose if we consider two main competitors in the market like Procter & Gamble and Hindustan Lever, the two main companies into the consumer durables, and both want to maximize their share. They may start with a different segment, they may opt for different pricing of the same product, they may opt for different packaging of the product, or any different marketing style. What is the objective? To get more market share, to maximize their market share. Both the players want the same thing. I, as one of the players, can choose my strategy, but will it just my strategy will determine my profit, or what my opponent or my you can say other players in the market, what they are also choosing, that combined with what I chose will determine my share? What do you think? The second option, that means here the decision making environment is a conflicting environment. As I discussed in the last class also, the decision making has four possible environments. Whenever a businessman is taking a decision, the environments could be decision under certainty, that means a certain environment is there where the problems like transportation problem, assignment problem, or maybe routing problem, salesman problem. So all these problems, there the certainty was there. What kind of certainty was there? Like in transportation problem, you was knowing the suppliers, you was knowing the retailers, their supply, their availability, requirement, and the price and the cost of transporting the units from one supplier to other. So only thing what the decision maker has to decide was to decide the number of units, what to supply from where to which retailer. That was a decision they had to take. So that was a decision under certainty. Like any production problem. Let's suppose if I'm production manager, I'm having certain resources which I'm using for production, and each unit which I'm producing, I know the constant fixed profit which I'm going to get through that unit. What I need to decide is how many units should I produce to maximize my profit. So that is a certain environment. The other two environments which we had covered under decision theory was uncertainty, the uncertain environment where I'm not sure what would be my profit or what would be my cost, and the last was under risk where some probabilities was known to me but not certainly I was knowing what will be happening in future. This is the fourth environment which we are talking today. This is a decision under conflicting situation. Here the situation is like I can say it is partially certain environment. Why? Because it is not completely uncertain and also it is not completely certain. Why? Because half of the part, like I as one of the players can decide my own strategies, that is totally in my hand. So that part is certain. But what my opponent or what the other players in the market will do, what strategy they will opt for, that is uncertain. So the combination of my strategy and their strategy will decide what gain or what loss I'll be having in future after opting for that strategy, right? So let's start from here. with the important definitions. First, as we're learning game theory, so you should know what is a game. It refers to a situation and a conflict or competition, you can say, in which two or more competitors, here we'll be calling them as players. So competitors or participants are involved in decision making process, right? So that is a game. In mathematical language, this is a game. And also, otherwise also, whenever we play a game, we normally used to have two or more players. Each player is in a competitive environment. Obviously, both the players, if two players are there, they used to compete for winning. That is what happens in a game also, right? So here in the game theory, the competitors or the participants, we call them as players. And the player here, as it's a business game, the player may be an individual or maybe a group of individuals or any organization, any company. So that we term it as player. Okay. And some examples, I just gave you example like pricing of a product. If I need to decide the pricing, so why I'm deciding the pricing? Because obviously pricing will decide my sales. I want to decide such an optimal price. I want to give such an optimal price so as my demand will increase. But is it the only factor which will increase my demand? Is my price is the only independent factor which will determine my demand? Obviously, my competitor's price for a similar product also matters, right? So this is a situation of a game. So in a game theory, in mathematical sense, we can classify the game theory based on the number of players which are there in the game. How many players do you think should be there at least in the game? At least two. Otherwise, if it's a single player, no competition, monopolistic situation, right? So if it is a game, at least two players should be there. If more than two players are there, there could be any value n. Any value n can be any value more than 2. So based on the number of players, we call the game as either a two-person game, if the two players are there, or n-person game if n players, n to the 3, 4 or any finite number. Okay? Now, as in the game theory, we are in a business competitive environment where the market is, we are assuming it's fixed, it's constant, and all the players are competing for the same market share, like they want to increase their own market share from the same market. So in that situation, whatever the gain of one player, that will be nothing but the loss of the other player, unless and until the market is increasing in size, right? So if in case the sum of the gains of the players who are gaining in the market is equal to the sum of the loss of the players, all those who are losing in the market, then it is called a zero-sum game. Why zero-sum? Because if you are summing up all the gains and all the losses, what are you getting? The sum as 0, because gains are getting cancelled off with the loss. So if a situation, if a mathematical situation shows you that the total gain is equal to the total loss, then we call these type of games as zero-sum game. So if I name a game as two-person zero-sum game, with this name, what do you infer? If I, in mathematics, if I call a game as two-person zero-sum game, what do you infer with this name? That there are two players, as I am saying two-person, and I am saying zero-sum game, that means our gain of one player is exactly equal to the loss of the other player, right? So with the name, you could make out that what is the situation. If I say that n-person zero-sum game, n-person zero-sum, that means the only difference that in case of two players, there are n players. If I call a game as a two-person non-zero-sum game, that means there are two players, but the gain of one is not equal to the loss of the other. Either the gain could be more or the loss could be more. So that means the market is not fixed in size. It may increase or it may decrease. Okay. And similarly, n%, non-zero sum game could be the last name, depending on if you have n players and non-zero sum game for the loss and gain. Strategy is another term we are going to use in the game theory. What do you mean by strategy? Any idea? In game theory, so how we are going to proceed in the game? That means what option, what action I am going to play. I means a player is going to take to increase his profit or chances of winning. So that is what we call it a strategy. Like the example I gave you, that maybe changing of the price could be one strategy of gaining more market share, or maybe opting for different other options, like it could be changing the packaging, or maybe changing some advertisement policy, or anything which is for gaining more market share. So obviously all the actions, all the, you can say, steps taken by the player for enhancing or increasing his profit, or if he's a loser, he is not gaining, then he will try to minimize his loss. So whatever action is trying to take to minimize his loss, that will be the strategy by him. Okay. Now, out of many strategies or many options or actions what a player may take, the one which optimizes his situation, that is the optimal strategy. That means the one which optimizes profit, or the one which optimizes loss, based on whether he is the winner or the loser, depending on what situation he is in. So whatever is optimizing his objective, that is what is called optimal strategy. Optimal, by optimal means the best for him. Okay. Okay. So now, based on what strategy he will choose, what gain or what loss he will be having after choosing that optimal strategy, that is called the value of the game, and you can say that it is expected outcome when player use their optimal strategy. Okay. If every time a player chooses a particular strategy, and the reason is that that strategy is going to give him the best output every time, then that particular optimal strategy is called a pure strategy. What is a pure strategy? I repeat, if every time a player is choosing one particular strategy, and the reason is that strategy is always giving him the best of the value of the game, or best of the profit, you can say, so that strategy will be called as pure strategy. But in case if that is not happening, if not the same strategy is getting opted by the player again and again, then that is a situation of mixed strategy. He may choose one strategy in the one game or the next strategy in the next game. So he keep changing the strategy. If that is the situation, then we call it a mixed strategy, games with mixed strategy. So another way of classifying the games mathematically is games with pure strategy and games with mixed strategy. So mathematically, till now what we have learned, mathematically we can classify the games in terms of number of players, 2% or n%. We can classify the games based on the gains and loss, zero sum or non-zero sum. We can classify the games based on the strategies what the player opts, a pure strategy game and a mixed strategy game. So these are the different way of classifying the games in business. So as I mentioned you, if I call the name as 2% zero sum game, it means you have two players and the sum, obviously the two players, I don't need to sum the gains. Obviously I can say that the gain of one player is exactly equal to the loss of other, then that is the situation of 2% zero sum game, and this is what I am going to take further in detail for understanding the operations, or you can say the mathematics behind mind the game theory, how to take the best of the decision or how to choose the best strategy for each player so as both the player will be at their best situation. That is what the objective of game theory is. Okay? Now, let's suppose there are two players. I am naming them as A and B. Okay? There are two players and each player is having some strategies or you can say some options or actions which he may take or he may choose from for playing the game. So one player, say let's suppose player A is having M strategies and player B is having N strategies. Where M are the numbers. It could be any number, it could be 5, 10 or any finite number, and N is also a number. They both can be equal, but it is not necessary that both has to be equal. That is why I use the term M and N. Number of options or actions which the player may choose while playing the game. And this matrix which represents the payoff value based on the action or you can say based on the strategy chosen by the player is called a payoff table. This matrix is called a payoff table. Let me explain you how to make this payoff table. You remember that in decision theory also we learned how to make a payoff table. There the payoff table used to consist of the events and the state of nature. Very good. So the options or you can say the actions which the decision maker choose, the alternatives out of which the decision maker choose any one, and the event which is going to occur in future, the combination of that is that whatever return is expecting, whatever profit or cost is expecting, that was the payoff table in the decision theory, right? Here in the game theory, the difference will be that in case of events, we will be having the combination of strategies of both the players and whatever the outcome or you can say the gain or loss based on the combination of the two strategies of one player and of the other player, that will be the payoff value on this matrix. For example, as you can see that for player A, I have written A1, A2 up till AM. What are these A1 to AM? They are the M strategies or M actions out of which the player A will choose any one. Right? On the top it is written B1, B2 up till Bn. These are the actions out of which player B will choose any one. Every time whenever they are playing a game, they will choose one of the actions. Now the values small a11, a12, what are these values? They are the payoff values, right? And what does it mean? If player A chooses A1 strategy, if let's suppose I am player A, I choose A1 and my opponent that is player B, he chooses B1 strategy. Then the gain, whatever gain I am going to get, that is the value A11 I write in the first box. Now you may say that why always a gain I am expecting? It could be a loss, I could be a loser. Maybe when I am choosing a first strategy and when my player B is choosing his B1 strategy, he is gaining more in the market. If that is the situation, even then the value A11 will represent my profit. If the value is negative there, the negative value of profit will reflect the loss. So that means this matrix is written with respect to the gain of player A. Wherever the negative value of these AIs, A11 or AIJs are there, that is representing the loss of B. Sorry, loss of A. And the loss of A means gain of B. Very good. If it's a 2% zero sum game, the loss of A means gain of B. So how to read this payoff matrix? A11 is a gain of A if he chooses A1 strategy and B chooses B1 strategy. And at the same time, A11 is a loss of B when he chooses his B1 strategy and A chooses A1. So this matrix, this payoff matrix, I am writing with respect to me as player A. So whenever we develop a payoff matrix, we means the players in the game, obviously every player develops a payoff matrix with respect to his profit. So this matrix is with respect to players A's profit. Every value in the row is representing players A profit or gain, and at the same time it is representing players B's loss. Okay. In case if player A is in a it's not in a winning situation, if he is not in a winning situation, what will be the value of AIJs will be negative. If I want to write this same payoff matrix with respect to player B, can I do that? What do I need to do for that? What I need to do? You said the sign I need to change, and yes, I need to take a transpose. That means the B strategies will be written here for row wise, and for A, all the strategies of A will be written column wise, and the values which are there, AIJs, they will be transposed. That means rows will become columns and columns will become rows, and the values will get changed by a negative sign, because right now they are the profit of A. If they are the profit of A and I want to write the profit of B, the profit of B is just a negative of profit of A. Okay, so that is what we can do if I want to write with respect to player B. What are the assumptions we are making while the game is getting played in the market? First assumption is that each player has available to him finite number of strategies. Okay, that means it is not that infinite long matrix is there. Some finite number, it could be any fixed number, which is known to both the players in advance. Otherwise, developing the mathematics or payoff table will not be possible for us. So, as our further calculations are all based on the payoff matrix, and for constructing any payoff matrix, what all I need to know? What was the things which was required in the payoff matrix? The strategies was the first thing. For both the players, I need to know how many strategies or actions are there. And secondly, the combination of strategies, what return they are getting, what profit or loss they are getting with the combination of the strategies. So the two things which I need to know. And out of the two things, the first thing is that the number of strategies for each player. So that means there has to be finite number of strategies, otherwise the payoff matrix cannot be constructed, and so you can say the optimization technique cannot be applied if I do not have the list or information about the strategies for each player. And the list of strategies for each player and the amount of gain and loss, they both are known to each player in advance. Yes. And one player attempts to maximize the gain and other player will try to minimize the loss. Obviously, if one is a gainer and there are two players only, then other is obviously a loser. So the gainer wants to maximize his gain, the loser wants to minimize his loss. The payoff is fixed and determined in advance. So that means it can be mathematically determined in advance that what will be the value, or you can say the output or the return or the gain after playing this game, if the number of strategies and the payoff both are known to me in advance. How do we do that? That's what we learn today. Now, if I as a player A is a gainer in the game and I have my own M strategies and the payoff values are also known to me with respect to each of my strategy, which strategy should I choose? How to decide that? Are you getting my question? There are two players, one is me and other is my opponent. We both are competing in the same market. Now, I have the list of my strategies. I also know the strategies of my opponent. I know the payoff from the combination of each strategy also. Now, when I have to choose out of my strategy, which strategy will I choose? And how do I decide that? What do you think? How do I, as a player, will decide my best strategy? Now, one student said that by comparing the profits, what I can get from each of my strategy. Now, as you have seen the payoff matrix, with each strategy there was one row having n number of values for the profit which I may get based on what my opponent will choose. I'll show you my payoff table again. See, if I am a player A and I am choosing my first strategy, say A1, what profit can I expect? A11, but that is possible only if B plays B opts for B1. That is not sure. That is not in my hand. I cannot be sure of that I'll get A11. I may get A12. I may get A13. I may get A1N. All depends on what my opponent, what my competitor is choosing, right? So, out of this A11, A12 and all, what is the minimum profit which I can expect, which is surely I am going to get no matter what the player B will choose. I repeat, if I choose my first strategy, I can get either A11 or A12 or A1N. One of the values I will get as my profit. Now, what is the minimum profit even in the worst situation? Worst in the sense, if my opponent choose such a strategy which is not giving me much of gains, then what is the minimum expected profit from my first strategy? That is the minimum of the first row payoff values, right? Minimum of the A11, A12 and A1N. So that means the values which are there, they are nothing but the numbers. Don't feel that A11 is a symbol. When we'll come to the questions, they will be replaced by the numbers. So I can easily find the minimum of the numbers. What is that number is representing now? That is representing the minimum expected gain, what he can be sure of when he choose his first strategy. That means अगर उसने अपनी first strategy choose करी तो जो भी इसकी minimum value आएगी first row की, वो minimum profit तो मिलना ही मिलना है. B ने कौन सी strategy choose करी, अब उस पे वो depend नहीं करता. I may get something more than that, depending on what B choose, but the minimum and the guaranteed profit which I am going to get is the minimum of the A11, A12 and the first row payoff values, I can say. Similarly, what is the minimum profit I can expect from a second strategy? Minimum of the second row payoff values. From the third, minimum of third row payoff values, and so on for all the strategies. So I got the minimum expected gain for each of my strategy. I got the minimum expected gain for each of my strategy, I as a player A. Now I know what is the minimum guaranteed profit which I will get from A1, from A2, from A3 or from all my strategies. Now which strategy should I choose? The maximum of those minimum values, because that is purely in my hand. Player B has nothing to do in it. Now, out of the minimum values, choosing the maximum. And this principle which is opted, or you can say adopted by the player A, who is a gainer, is called a maximin principle. Maximin, where he is expecting minimum gain from each of his strategy, and he tries to maximize that minimum gain by choosing such a strategy which is having the maximum out of these minimum values. Is it clear? It will be more clear with the example, because once we'll be in the question, you will be able to see with the numbers that how we're doing it. I'll come to it. But that principle what A is adopting, maximin principle I said, is it clear to everyone? Now similarly, this payoff matrix, as I said, that it is a player B's loss also. It is reflecting or it is indicating you the values of the loss values for player B. Now player B, let's suppose I am a player B now. What is the maximum loss I can expect from my first strategy, B1? Because the values are my loss values. So what could be the maximum loss? The maximum of the first column values, because the first column is values are representing the loss based on my B1 strategy. If I choose my B1 strategy, what the loss I may have, I either may have A11 as a loss, or A21 or A31 or AM1. Out of these loss values, in the worst situation, because I don't know what the player A will choose, I as a player B will expect what is the maximum or the worst possible situation I could be in. That is the maximum value of the first column. Similarly, for my B2 strategy, the maximum loss could be the maximum of the second column payoff values, and for the third, the maximum of third, and so on. Now, I as a player B, what strategy should I choose to minimize my maximum expected loss? Minimum of those maxima, and that principle is called mini-max. Expecting the maximum loss from each strategy and then minimizing it by choosing such a strategy which is having the minimum out of those maximum. Okay, that means player A will opt for maximum principle and player B will opt for mini-max principle. If the player B's value, what he is getting from the maximum principle, and the player B's value, what he is getting from minimax principle, if these two values coincide, then that point is called saddle point. The value which is written in that cell is called the value of the game, and that value is representing the gain of A and the loss of B, as it is a two-person zero-sum game. So, as I mentioned you, optimal strategy, if the minimax value and the maximum value, if they are equal, then that point is called saddle point or equilibrium point, and the value of the game is nothing but the value which we get as an intersection point value. And in case if the value is 0, if the value at the intersection, or you can say the value of the game is 0, then in mathematics we call such games as fair games. Fair games, that means the net gain of A is equal to the net loss of B is equal to 0. That means no one has gained, no one has lost anything in that particular game. And in mathematics we call it as a fair game. And in case if the value is not 0, if it is any either positive or negative value, if it is a positive value, then the positive value means the gain of A, and that is exactly the loss of B. If it is a negative value which is coming at the intersection, then that is a loss of A and the gain of B. Let's understand all this through the example, because I think the theoretical things at times don't clear the things much clearly, but sometimes with the numbers we can understand it much easily. So let's see. The example is showing you a payoff matrix where player A is having how many strategies? 2. Player B is having how many strategies? 3. Now, out of the 2 and 3 strategies, the payoff values for each of the combination of the strategies is given to you. Now, let me start with player A. As a player A, if I choose my first strategy, that is A1, what is a minimum guaranteed profit or the loss? That means the worst, whatever worst may happen, that is -2, the least of the -1, 2 and -2. The minimum value of -1, 2 and -2 is -2. This is the, actually -2 is what? That means a loss. That means if I as a player A choose my first strategy, the worst possible result could be that I could be in a loss of 2 rupees. Let's suppose if they are in rupees, I could be in a loss of 2 rupees. इससे ज़्यादा तो कुछ नहीं हो सकता. अगर मैंने A1 चूज़ किया, इससे ज़्यादा बुरा कुछ नहीं हो सकता. हो सकता है अच्छा हो जाए, मुझे 2 रुपीज़ का प्रॉफिट मिल जाए अगर प्लेयर बी ने B2 ऑप्ट किया, बट दैट इज़ नॉट इन माई हैंड. Only thing what is in my hand is to choose my strategy. As a player A, I can choose only out of my A1 and A2. I cannot control player B. Right? Now, from A2, if I choose A2, what is the, in the worst case, what I can expect? -6. So these are the two minimum values for both the rows. Okay. Out of these two minimum, -2 and -6, मुझे 2 रुपये का लॉस हो सकता है या 6 रुपये का लॉस हो सकता है. मेरे पास दो ऑप्शन है. एक में मुझे 2 रुपये का मैक्सिमम लॉस हो सकता है, दूसरे में मुझे 6 रुपये का मैक्सिमम लॉस हो सकता है. मैं कौन सा ऑप्शन चूज करूंगी? A1. That means A1 will be my strategy which will minimize my maximum loss, maximum gain. I repeat, that will maximize my minimum gain. That will maximize my minimum gain because I am expecting the minimum gain and I am trying to maximize it. Now, let's see it from the player B's perspective. Yes, I as a player B, if I am choosing my first strategy B1, what could be my maximum loss? Mind it, the negative values are my profit. For player B, the negative values are the profit and the positive values are the loss. So what is the maximum loss I may have? 6. If I choose B1, right? If I choose B2, 4. If I choose B3, I can get a gain of 2 rupees. Out of 6, 4 and -2. Out of 6, 4 and -2, what is the maximum, what is the minimum value? 6, 4 and -2, the minimum is -2. What I am doing here? I am trying to minimize my maximum expected loss. Right? So when I am trying to minimize my maximum expected loss, the best strategy what I got as a player B is B3. And what is the value I am getting as the minimum of maximum expected loss? As -2. This is the same value which I was getting for player A also. And the suggestion was like player A should choose A1 and player B should choose B3. The intersection of A1 and B3 is -2. That is what? That is the value of the game. As maximin is intersecting with minimax, it is intersecting here, so the game is having a saddle point. This point where I got -2, this point is having the intersection of two strategies, A1 and B3. For player A, I got one best strategy. So the optimal strategy for player A is A1. The optimal strategy for player B is B3. And by choosing their optimal strategy, player A will have loss of 2 because minus sign is there. And player B will have a gain of 2. And the value of the game is, in respect to player A as a matrix is, the value will write as -2. That means -2 is the loss of A, the base gain, And if you sum the loss and gain, sum is coming as 0. Is it a fair game? In mathematical language, we call a game as fair game if the value of the game is 0. Here the value is -2. Don't get confused with the sum of gain and loss as 0. Zero sum game and the value of the game is 0. They are the two different things. Intersection of A1 and B3. Because for A1 is a best strategy as per his calculation. For player B, A1 and B3 ka intersection is this point -2 which I encircled. Say again. This is -1, 2, -2, 6, 4 and -6. For player A, I expected the minimum gain from each of strategy and I tried to maximize it by choosing the best strategy for him. प्लेयर ए के लिए कौन सा प्रिंसिपल लगाया हमने? मैक्सिमम. मिनिमम गेन एक्सपेक्ट किया. ये कंजर्वेटिव अप्रोच. अगर आपको डिसीजन थ्योरी के याद हो, वहाँ पे भी हमने करा था मैक्सिमम प्रिंसिपल. मैक्सिमम प्रिंसिपल क्या था ना? कंजर्वेटिव अप्रोच. हाईली पेसिमिस्टिक. हाईली पेसिमिस्टिक में क्या था? ऑप्टिमिस्टिक में तो था कि बहुत बेस्ट सिचुएशन सोचना, मैक्सिमैक्स और मिनिमिन था वहाँ पर. और अगर हम पेसिमिस्टिक हैं तो हम नेगेटिव सोचेंगे. और उस केस में प्लेयर ए ने नेगेटिव क्या सोचा कि क्या पता प्लेयर बी कौन सी स्ट्रैटेजी ऑप्ट करे. तो बुरा से बुरा कुछ भी हुआ तो मुझे कम से कम -2 जो है वो अपनी फर्स्ट स्ट्रैटेजी से ये मिलेगा ही मिलेगा. इससे कम नहीं हो सकता. यानी कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लॉस होगा तो 2 रुपये का होगा अगर मैंने अपनी फर्स्ट स्ट्रैटेजी चूज़ करी. सेकंड चूज़ करी तो 6 रुपये का लॉस था. अब इन दोनों में से चूज़ करना उसके हाथ में था कि वो कौन सी स्ट्रैटेजी ऑप्ट करे. इसके पास है यही 2 ऑप्शन. तो दैट इज़ व्हाट ही ट्राई टू डू बाय चूजिंग अ मैक्सिमम प्रिंसिपल. If the maximum value which was coming as -2 comes exactly equal to the minimax value, then we call the game as having a saddle point or a equilibrium point. Let's have one more example to understand it further. I read out the values for you, so as you can write down in your notebook, as you can say half of the screen is on the board, not so very readable for you. Yes? Yeah. Yes. For player B, this payoff matrix is representing the loss. So, minus of loss means profit. That means for player B, if I read it for player B, if we choose B1, what is our loss? What he can expect from B1? -1 is a gain. And 6 is a loss. -1 is a gain. 1 rupees gain. Either he may have a 1 rupee gain or he may have a 6 rupees loss. In the worst situation, what he will expect? बुरा से बुरा हुआ तो क्या होगा? 6 rupees का loss. That is what the column maxima for first column. 6. In the second strategy, what was in the worst situation, what he can have the maximum loss of? 4 rupees. In the third, 2 रुपीज़ का गेन होगा या 6 रुपीज़ का गेन. वर्स्ट सिचुएशन में क्या एक्सपेक्ट करेगा? नेगेटिव सोचेगा तो 2 और 6 में से कौन सा प्रॉफिट हो सकता है मैक्सिमम? उसको 2 लगेगा क्योंकि नेगेटिव अप्रोच है. अब 6, 4 एंड -2 हर स्ट्रैटेजी से उसको पता चल गया कि इससे 6 रुपये का लॉस हो सकता है. इस स्ट्रैटेजी चूज़ करूँगी तो 4 रुपये का लॉस है और इसको चूज़ करने पे 2 रुपये का प्रॉफिट. अब कौन सी स्ट्रैटेजी चूज़ करूँ? ये तो अब कंप्लीटली प्लेयर बी के हाथ में हो गया ना. तो वो कौन सी करेगा? B3, क्योंकि उस पर जो मिनिमम अश्योर्ड है वो है 2 रुपीज़ का प्रॉफिट. लॉस होना ही नहीं है उसमें 2 रुपीज़ का प्रॉफिट, तो वो B3 चूज करेगा. राइट? I as a player A, if I have the information of player B's strategies and the payoff matrix, so even without playing the game, I will be knowing what would be the outcome of the game. That is what the game theory is teaching me. Okay. So with another example, here we have 4 strategy for both the players, and the values in the first row are 20, 15, 12 and 35. They are representing the gain of the union strategy. There are two you can say players here. We have taken union and company. They are competing, they are fighting for some issue, and these are the payoff values which they may get based on the actions which they have available with him. So for the second row, the values are 25, 14. I read out, it's 14, 8 and 10. 1, 4, it is here. Then for the third, it is 40, 42, 10 and 5. And for the fourth, it is -5, 4, 11 and 0. Now, let's apply the maximin and minimax principle. For player A, here player A is the union. Okay. For player A, what do we do? Which principle we apply? Maximin. And what does it mean? With each of his strategy, he will expect the minimum. That means he will choose the minimum of each row. After that, out of those minimum, whichever is maximum, that particular strategy is best for him. Right? So choose that. Do it first. Tell me, what is the minimum of first row? For the second row, third and fourth? -5. -5 is less than 0. Okay. So, such a easy thing. You can all of you, even if you have not studied maths from long time, you all remember how to find the minimum of any row, minimum of any numbers. So, that is easy thing. Now, out of those minimum values, 12, 8, -2 and -5, what is the maximum? 12. Pertaining to which strategy? First. Okay. That is a maximin value I got. Now let's find the minimax value. How to find the minimax value? That is for player B. He will expect the maximum loss from each. So what is the maximum of first column? 40. Very good. Next. 15. Third and fourth. Out of 40, 15, 12 and 35. These are the loss values. What should he choose? Which strategy should he choose to minimize his maximum loss? Minimum क्या है इसका? 12. Pertaining to the third strategy. Is this 12 is the same what player A is getting from his first strategy? See. This is what we had done. First we found the row minimas. It's written at the end, the last column. Then we found the column maximas, which are written below the payoff matrix. Out of the row minimas, I found the maximum, which is 12, highlighted by the purple color. Out of the column maximas, I found the minimum value, which is 12 again. Now, if you see the intersection, this 12 value is same value coming from that cell. Which cell? First row, third column. So, for the player A, what is the optimal strategy? 1, first strategy, and for player B, third strategy. So, the result is that if player A will choose first strategy and player B will choose third strategy, the value of the game, what is the value of the game I am getting? बच्चे, no gain, no loss तो है. No gain, no loss ऐसा नहीं है कि no gain, no loss है. Gain है. A का gain है 12 rupees का. The net sum of gain and loss is 0. It is not a no gain, no loss. अगर 12 की जगह 0 लिखा होता, तो no gain, no loss था. So, it is not a no gain, no loss. It is a zero sum game. And by zero sum, don't feel that it is a no gain, no loss. Zero sum means the gain of one is exactly equal to the loss of other. So, A ने अगर 12 rupees, if it is in rupees, अगर A ने 12 rupees gain किया तो किससे gain किया? B से. वो जो मार्केट शेयर है, अगर मार्केट का 12% ए ने गेन किया है तो किसने लूज किया? बी ने उतना शेयर लूज किया. ओके, इज इट क्लियर टू एवरीवन? Last rows and all, everyone, matlab, as you people are sitting very scattered, I cannot keep an eye contact with each and every student, but you know your situation. If it is not clear, ask me now before I'll move on to the next further complex situations, I can say. So which kind of game it was? I can name it in many ways. I can call it as a 2-person zero-sum game. Yes. I can call it as a unfair game. Why unfair? Because the value of the game is not 0. Okay. I can call it as a strictly determinable game. Why? Because I could find the value of the game. Whenever I am been able to find the value of the game through max-min and minimax principle, then that game is called strictly determinable game. I can also call this game as game with pure strategies, because both the players, player A and player B, both are having one best strategy, or you can say the optimal strategy for them, which is giving them the best of the result, you can say, out of the situation. So there are the names, different names. I can call it as a unfair game, strictly determinable game, or a 2-person zero-sum game. These are all the different type of naming, or a pure strategy game. Now I am moving to the mixed strategy. Before I move to the mixed strategy, is it clear to you when do we call the game is having a pure strategy? Is it clear to everyone that when do we call the game is having pure strategies? Whenever we get one single best strategy for each player. Whenever we get one single best strategy, or you can say optimal strategy for each player, then that type of game is a pure strategy game. Right? So, in case if that is not the situation, that means my maximum value and minimax value is not coinciding. They are not meeting at one point. The maximum value is different from minimax value. Then I can call it as game without saddle point. I can call that game as game without saddle point. I can also call it as a game with mixed strategy. That means whenever a game is not having a saddle point, I can simply say that that game is having mixed strategies. And by mixed strategy, what do we mean? That is, not one single pure strategy is optimal for a player. He may be choosing from maybe two strategies, the combination of two strategies to get the best of the result. So he may choose his first strategy at times, or in the next time whenever he is playing the game, he may choose another strategy. So he will be choosing the combination of the strategies, you can say. First, every time whenever he is playing the game, obviously we will choose one. But that one is not fixed for all the times to come, as it is a mixed strategy case. Okay, let's see how we'll realize it. Right now, yeah, very valid question, sir. Right now I am teaching you the mathematics of game theory, that how we determine the optimal strategies for each player. But yes, where exactly the managers apply this or use this, or in which situation it helped them to take decision. The examples which I gave you, whenever any player could be any individual, it could be any group of individuals, it could be any company, any organization. who is competing in same market, and there are competitors which we are right now calling as players, and they are about to take some action, like if I am changing the price of my product, if I am changing the maybe quality or any such parameter of my product which is through which I am expecting some increase in the market share. Before taking such decision that what will be my return, what will be my gain in that situation, whether I will gain or not, if I need to decide that, that is a situation where I will be using this game theory. Like? सर जो आपने फॉर्मेट की बात करी मैक्सिमाइज करना है, वो एक अगर कंपनी को सिर्फ अपना प्रॉफिट मैक्सिमाइज करना है बेस्ड ऑन सर्टेन कंस्ट्रेंट्स, that is one category of problems. We call it a linear programming or a non-linear programming problem, depending on what kind of objective mathematical function we have, either a linear or a non-linear. This is not a linear programming or a non-linear programming format structure. Yes. Exactly. You will be having 2 players at least. In case if you have more than 2 players, how do you solve? If I as one of the player, I have say 5 other competitors in the market. How do I make the payoff table in that situation? Because matrix can be a 2-dimensional thing only. I will make 1 rows for me, the values which I will gain, and to get the gain or the loss of the competitors, all the competitors, I will sum up their gain and loss and reflect it as 1. बाकी 4 जो competitors हैं, I will combine them as 1, क्योंकि मैं जो भी gain करूँगी as one of the player, I will be gaining from rest of the force. शायद उन 4 में से किसी 1 से या 2 से 3 से या 4 से कुछ पोर्शन. अगर मैंने लूज किया तो वो कौन गेन करेगा? उन 4 में से कोई 1 भी गेन कर सकता है, कोई 2, कोई 3 या 4. तो उन 4 को कंबाइन करके आई टेक इट एज 1 to make the payoff matrix mathematically, because whenever we construct a payoff matrix, matrix can always have only rows and columns. So there, if I have 2 players or I have n players, I can make a payoff matrix. The condition, or you can say the assumptions which I made it clear in the starting of the game theory, that I know my strategies, that is obviously I will be knowing, but I know my opponent strategies also. The list of strategies are already known to me, and the payoff value. Payoff means the value which, the gain or the loss which I may have through the combination of mine and my opponent's strategy, that is already known to me. Through the market survey, through the past conditions, through various other sources, I already have gathered this information, and in the light of this information, now I need to take the decision about which strategy should I choose. This is not like your simple linear programming problem where just I am trying to maximize my profit based on my constraints. That's what I am saying. Instead of having 4 different players, I'll sum up. For example, I am gaining say 6 rupees. Let's suppose we have 5 players. I name it as A, B, C, D, E. I as one of the player A, will get some gain. I can solve it 2 ways. Either I can solve it A versus B, then A versus C, A versus D, A versus E, whatever situation I'll get. Or there are the methods through which we can combine the remaining competitors, so as I can, for mathematical reason, I can take it as 1 versus all others. Because I am interested in my own action, what I need to choose. based on what my opponent or opponents may choose. Okay? I think with more examples शायद और clarity आए आपको. Okay. I'm coming to one problem where I want to show you that this is not a game with a saddle point. First, let's find out the saddle point. How to find the saddle point? What do I need to do? I need to find the minimax and maximum value. How to find the minimax and maximum value? For player A, I'll find the minimum of each row. What is the minimum of first row? Second, third row, fourth row. Okay, 0 is the value out of this 0, 2, 0 and 0. What is the maximum? 2. Pertaining to which strategy? A2. अगर player A अपना A2 choose करेगा, then he will get the maximum, which is 2 out of these values 0, 2, 0 and 0, right? Now for player B, what is the maximum loss he may have from B1? 4. From B2, from B3 and from B4. Out of these maximum loss, he will try to minimize his loss. That is 4. For 3 different strategies. He may choose B1, he may choose B2 or he may choose B3. Is that 4 value is same as what the maximum profit what the player A is getting maximum value? That was 2. This is 4. They are not coinciding. Right? So there is no saddle point. and so this is not a game with pure strategy. Okay? This is just what I wanted to show you. Now it's not that we cannot solve this game, but we will not solve it through the saddle point mechanism. We will find out other way of finding out the two best mixed strategies for both the players. Okay. So in a case of mixed strategy, you realize it, when do we call it's a case of mixed strategy? You all realize that when do we call a game is not having a pure strategy? Whenever there is no saddle point, we will call it as a game with mixed strategy. Now, if it is a mixed strategy case, depending on the size of payoff matrix, size means how to decide a size? हम किसी payoff matrix का size कैसे define करते हैं? Rows into columns. जितनी rows हैं और जितने columns हैं. अगर 2 row हैं, 4 column हैं तो 2 cross 4 is a size. Okay, if you have 4 rows, 2 columns, 4 cross 2 is a size. If you have m rows, n columns, then m cross n is a size. Okay? Now, first and the foremost step for solving any game. Now, this is with respect to your examination point of view, sir. What you need to do and how you need to solve the game. You will be given with a payoff matrix, or you will be given with the information which can help you to construct the payoff matrix. That is first step. You will be either having the direct payoff matrix in your question, or you need to construct through the information in the question. After having the payoff matrix, first step, try and find out the saddle point. How to find the saddle point? By finding out the maximum and minimax value. If the maximum value and minimax value are coinciding, that point is a saddle point, and you are done with the solving of the game, because that value which is coming at the saddle point is the gain of A, it is the loss of B, and that's the value of the game, and the strategies pertaining to that value, the gain and loss, those strategies for A and B are the optimal strategies, And we are done with each and every part of this problem. In case, if we are not getting a saddle point, like we just saw the example, if we are not getting a saddle point, then it is a mixed strategy case. Now, with a mixed strategy, when you realize that it's a mixed strategy case, the first step what you need to do is, after finding out that it is a mixed strategy case, is that see the size of the matrix. See the size of the matrix, whether it is having 2 cross 2, that is a minimum possible size. Is it not the minimum possible size? 2 cross 2 minimum size मैंने क्यों कहा? उससे कम क्या हो सकता है? उसमें तो फिर कुछ सोचने की बात ही नहीं रही कि मेरे पास भी एक ही एक्शन है, उसके पास भी एक ही एक्शन है, तो कौन सा चूज करें? इसमें चूज करने का ऑप्शन ही नहीं बचा. जब एक ही ऑप्शन होगा किसी भी एक प्लेयर के पास, चाहे वो मैं हूँ या ओपोनेंट हो, तो फिर कुछ ज़्यादा सोच बची ही नहीं, कोई डिसीजन मेकिंग है नहीं. बात शुरू होती है मिनिमम एटलीस्ट 2 क्रॉस 2 से. अगर 1 into 1 मतलब मेरे पास ऑप्शंस नहीं है, मैं एक ही स्टेप करती रहती हूँ, यही मेरा स्टेप और उससे यही मेरा गेन होता रहता है. तो इन दैट सिचुएशन आई बी द इधर द गेनर ऑल द टाइम और द लूजर ऑल द टाइम, unless I change my strategies. That means I need to increase my strategies in that situation. So if it is a case of 2 cross 2, if we have a 2 cross 2 matrix and it is a game without a saddle point, we already realized it. That means one single strategy for any of the player is not best. That is what we understand by games without saddle point. So अगर दोनों में से दोनों प्लेयर के लिए कोई भी उनकी एक पर्टिकुलर स्ट्रैटेजी बेस्ट नहीं है, तो क्या होगा? दोनों स्ट्रैटेजी का कॉम्बिनेशन वो प्ले करेंगे. कभी वो पहली स्ट्रैटेजी ऑप्ट करेगा, कभी वो दूसरी स्ट्रैटेजी ऑप्ट करेगा. कितने % टाइम या क्या चांस है कि वो अपनी पहली स्ट्रैटेजी ऑप्ट करे, मुझे नहीं पता. मैं एज अ प्लेयर ए, आई एम नॉट श्योर अबाउट प्लेयर बी दैट विच स्ट्रैटेजी ही विल बी चूजिंग, बिकॉज दैट गेम हैज़ नॉट गिवन मी एनी सैडल पॉइंट. पिछले वाली सिचुएशन में मैं प्लेयर ए थी, लेकिन मैं फिर भी प्लेयर बी की कौन सी वो स्ट्रैटेजी चूज़ करेगा वो मैंने डिटरमाइन कर ली थी विद अ सैडल पॉइंट. अब जब सैडल पॉइंट नहीं है तो मुझे प्लेयर बी की बेस्ट स्ट्रैटेजी नहीं पता कि वो कौन सी चूज़ करेगा. ही मे चूज हिज फर्स्ट स्ट्रैटेजी, ही मे चूज हिज सेकंड स्ट्रैटेजी. सिमिलरली प्लेयर बी ऑल्सो नॉट नोइंग दैट विच स्ट्रैटेजी आई विल चूज. आई मे चूज माई फर्स्ट स्ट्रैटेजी और सेकंड स्ट्रैटेजी. दिस इज अ केस आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट अ 2 cross 2 matrix. Let's suppose I have A1 and A2 and player B is having B1, B2. And the probability, because chance है कि मैं A फर्स्ट चूज़ करूँ, हो सकता है मैं सेकंड चूज़ करूँ, इसी तरह से प्लेयर A अपनी फर्स्ट चूज़ करे या सेकंड चूज़ करे, मैं मूव कर सकता है. तो here I will take the help of probability and I say that let P1 is a probability of choosing first strategy by player A. अगर प्लेयर A अपनी फर्स्ट स्ट्रैटेजी को चूज़ करने के चांस P1 है, तो सेकंड के चांस कितने हो जाएंगे? 1 - P1, क्योंकि दो ही स्ट्रैटेजी हैं उसके पास, या तो वो फर्स्ट चूज़ करेगा या वो सेकंड करेगा. अगर P1 चांस है, फर्स्ट P1 कुड बी एनी वैल्यू, लाइक प्रोबेबिलिटी है तो वैल्यू क्या हो सकती है? बिटवीन 0 to 1 होगी. अगर परसेंटेज बोलेंगे तो 0 to 100%. इफ आई हैव अ 70% चांस टू चूज फर्स्ट स्ट्रैटेजी, then obviously I have a 30% chance of choosing second strategy. If I have 40% chance of choosing first strategy, then obviously 60% for the second strategy, right? So that is what P1 and 1 - P1 or P1 and P2 you can call it, depending on P1 and P2 अगर बुला रहे हैं. If P1 is a probability of first strategy and P2 is for the second strategy, then you can write P1 plus P2 is equals to 1. That means P2 is nothing but 1 - P1. Okay. Similarly for player B. For player B, let Q1 and Q2 be the probabilities of selecting B1 and B2 by player B, where Q1 plus Q2 will be again 1 and Q1 and Q2 are the probabilities, so there has to be between 0 and 1 any value. Now how to find the values of this P1, P2 and the value of the game? Yes? P1 is a probability of player A choosing his first strategy A1, and P2 is a probability of choosing A2 by player A. Similarly, Q1 is a probability of choosing B1 by player B, and Q2 is a probability of choosing B2 by B. Okay? There are two strategies, both for the player A and player B, A1 and A2 and B1, B2, I named them. And the probabilities of selecting the strategy I am naming as P1, P2 and Q1, Q2. Whereas P2 is nothing but 1 minus P1 and Q2 is 1 minus Q1, for the reason because out of the two strategies, at least one of the strategy he will choose for sure. And now to find the values of P1, P2 and Q1, Q2, a little deeper statistics is used. So for you getting into expectation and how did we derive this formula will be too much. I'm not getting into that. Although those who are from engineering or statistics background or mathematics background, they can refer to the book for the derivation of these formulas which are there. If you have a query in mind, how did we got this formula? But yes, otherwise, for all others, it will be too much for you to understand that how did we got this expected value and all. So through the expected value, we found P1, P2. What is the formula is having A22 means the value, the payoff value pertaining to the second strategy of player A and second strategy of player B. So please note down these formulas which you need to apply whenever it is a game without saddle point. Yes, what do you say? I read out. P1 is A22 minus A21 divided by A11 plus A22 minus in the bracket A12 plus A21. Then Q1 is A22 minus A12 divided by A11 plus A22 minus of in the bracket A12 plus A21. This is for those who cannot read out. Maybe from the screen that side you can note down. And below that it is written that P2 is 1 minus P1 and Q2 is 1 minus Q1. And below that it is written V. V is for value of the game. Because what we need to find out? We need to find what are the chances of he choosing any of the strategy? By knowing the chance, what do I do? If I am a player A, I get to know the value of Q1 and Q2 of player B. How do you think that it's going to help me? I'll be knowing the chance of choosing any particular strategy by the player B. And that will help me to find out the expected gain, I can say, because the situation is not a purely deterministic situation. But yes, if the chances are high, like if the value of Q1 is 90%, that means there is a 90% chance that player A will choose B1. The 90% means high chance. The high chance are there, obviously, based on the high chance, I can expect whatever value of the game is coming as my profit. If the value, if Q1 is say 20%, that means very low chance. So the value of the game, this is a very less likely I'll get. So I'll be knowing that if 20% chance is for first strategy, then obviously 80% chance for the second strategy. Based on that, whatever the value of the game I'm getting, that is what I'll be expecting. Here, the difference will be the value is not a sure shot value, but it is an expected value. The reason is that I am not sure about which strategy the opponent will choose. A11, A12, all these values are the payoff values. Okay. How did we got this? That is based on the calculation of expected return. If you remember the expectation in statistics, how do we find the expectation? That is nothing but summation of xi into pi. So for player A, if P1 is a probability of choosing the first strategy, A1, and A11 is a profit, what he may get from the first strategy, or he may get A12. So that is what is multiplied, and they both are equated with each other. And then P2 is replaced by 1 minus P1. And for this formula will give you a number which definitely will be between 0 and 1, and that will represent the chance of selecting first strategy by the player A. P1 is the chance of selecting first strategy by player A. Similarly, the formula Q1, you will get a number after putting these numbers A22 and A21 and all that. You will get a number which will be surely between 0 and 1, because that is a probability of selecting first strategy by player B. And if I know the probabilities, पास ना लाऊं, अच्छा उसके पास से, okay. So if I know the probabilities of selection of the strategy by the players, then I can expect what would be the outcome of this game if I have at least a better understanding. Before probabilities, what do I know about the game? Which strategy they will choose? I have no idea. For my opponent, I have no idea. So to get a little better clarity about it, the probabilities will help me to find out the expected gain or expected loss which I may have to my game. Now this is a case when I have no saddle point and I have 2 by 2 matrix. What if no saddle point but the matrix size is not 2 by 2? That's possible. That means if any of the player is having more strategy, more than 2 strategies, or both the players are having more than 2 strategies, it could be 3 cross 3, 4 cross 4 or 7 cross 9 or any size of the matrix, and the saddle point is not there. Now again we'll move one step ahead. If it is not 2 by 2, we'll see whether it is 2 cross m or n cross 2. That means what? किसी एक प्लेयर के पास तो 2 ही स्ट्रैटेजी, दूसरे के पास ज़्यादा. अगर 2 by 2 था तो क्या था? दोनों के पास 2-2 थी स्ट्रैटेजी. 2 by 2 नहीं है तो मैंने अभी उसको आगे बढ़ने से पहले बीच में एक स्टेप में रुक रही हूँ कि अगर मिक्स स्ट्रैटेजी का सिचुएशन है लेकिन 2 by 2 नहीं है, लेकिन 2 cross 4 या 2 cross एनी नंबर या एनी अदर नंबर मोर देन 2 cross 2 है, दैट मीन्स 6 cross 2 है, 3 cross 2 है, ऐसा कुछ सिचुएशन अगर आ जाती है. If I have one player having 2 strategies and other player is having more than 2 strategies, and also it's a no saddle point case, then what to do? There are 2 different methods to solve this. One, I can reduce the number of strategies of the other player who is having more than 2 strategies by determining his inferior strategies. Inferior strategies कैसे होती हैं, किसे कहते हैं, और उसको डिटरमाइन करने के बाद उनको हटा के साइज को 2 by 2 बनाने की कोशिश करेंगे. दैट मीन्स एट द एंड जब भी मिक्स स्ट्रैटेजी का केस है तो मेरा फाइनल ऑब्जेक्टिव है कि किसी भी तरह साइज 2 by 2 आ जाए, चाहे वो 2 क्रॉस एनी नंबर हो या एनी नंबर क्रॉस 2 हो. उसमें से जिसके पास ज़्यादा स्ट्रैटेजीज हैं उसकी इंफीरियर स्ट्रैटेजीज फाइंड आउट करनी है. अब इंफीरियर कैसे फाइंड आउट करेंगे? द मेथड नेम इज कॉल्ड ग्राफिकल मेथड. Now take this example. First step, question will come as solve the game and you will be given with this payoff matrix. What is the first step you will do? You will find the maximin and minimax value. Very good. Find out what is the minimum of first row, second row 2. Out of -2 and 2 the maximum is 2 pertaining to A2. अब कॉलम वाइज चलते हैं. ये हमारी 2 तो क्या हो गई, मैक्सिमम वैल्यू आ गई. अब कॉलम वाइज मिनिमैक्स वैल्यू निकालेंगे. फर्स्ट कॉलम का मैक्सिमम 4, सेकंड का 3, थर्ड का 3, फोर्थ का 6 इन मैक्सिमम का मिनिमम कौन सा 4 3 3 एंड 6 में से मिनिमम आ गया 3 जो दो जगह है B2 and B3. The value 3, is it same as the maximum value? Maximum was 2. Coincide नहीं कर रहा तो this is a game without saddle point. It is not a pure strategy game. So it is a mixed strategy game. ये clear हो गया पहला step. अब mixed strategy game पता चलते ही what is the next step? What I'll do? I'll look at to the size of the matrix. It is 2 by 2? No. Okay, easiest form was 2 by 2, where I could apply that formula to find P1, P2, Q1, Q2 and value. Here the size is 2 cross 4. 2 rows, 4 columns. So now as at least one of the player is having 2 strategy, other is having more, I can apply graphical method. How do I apply graphical? Now for the player for which I am having only 2 strategies, I will define the probabilities P1 and P2 like I used to do for 2 by 2. What is P1? Probability of selecting A1 by the player A, and P2 is probability of selecting A2 by player A. If player A, now for player B, there are 4 strategies. I do not know out of these 4 which one is the best one or which 2 are the best for him. Now for player B, if he chooses first strategy, B1, what is the expected payoff against his first strategy? कैसे निकालते हैं expected payoff? I tell you, I said P1 is a probability for A1 and P2 is for A2. So multiplying the probability of selecting that strategy with the payoff value which I get for B1. Value क्या है? 2. First column की value देखिए 2 and 4. अगर प्लेयर बी ने अपनी फर्स्ट स्ट्रैटेजी B1 सेलेक्ट करी तो उसको 2 रुपीज़ का लॉस हो सकता है या 4. 2 रुपीज़ के लॉस होने के कितने चांस हैं? वो उतने ही चांस हैं जितना प्लेयर ए के A1 चूज़ करने के हैं. और प्लेयर ए के A1 चूज़ करने के कितने चांस हैं? P1. तो 2 रुपीज़ का लॉस होने के चांस हैं P1. तो चांस इंटू द पे ऑफ वैल्यू दैट इज 2 इंटू P1 प्लस 4 इंटू P2, दैट इज व्हाट द expected payoff. And this is what for pure strategy, B's pure strategy, I found the A's expected payoff. This is what we have obtained. Similarly, if B chooses B2, what will be the A's expected payoff? How to find? Again, multiplying P1, P2 by the column values of B2. Similarly, for B3 and B4. So I'll find out these A's expected payoff for each of B's pure move. Is this step clear? A little, you can say a little more mathematics is there, but what I'm doing, for whichever player I'm having only 2 strategies, for that player I'm defining the probability, and for the other player I'm taking one strategy, one pure strategy at a time and finding out the expected payoff for the other player who is having 2 strategies. Based on his choice of the 2 strategies, he may choose P1 or he may choose P2. Now, with the help of this, I plot a graph. As the method name is graphical method, I'll plot a graph. How do I plot a graph? This graph will not be same as what we used to draw in our normal mathematics, where x-axis and y-axis used to be there. Here, this is a probability graph where I'll be making a graph at a unit distance. I'll show you. This is a graph which I'll be plotting. How? The x-axis here, the base, the x-axis is representing the probability value. Starting from P1 0, moving to P1 1. So, अगर P1 0. What do you mean by P1 0? If I call P1 as 0, what was P1? Probability of choosing A1 strategy by the player A. If P1 is 0, that means A is never choosing his first strategy. That means P2 is what? 1. As P1 plus P2 is 1 and P1 is 0, that means P2 is 1. If player A is not choosing in his first strategy, now for player B, if player B chooses first strategy, I'll show you. Come back to the payoff table. अगर player A अपनी फर्स्ट स्ट्रैटेजी नहीं चूज कर रहा, तो अगर प्लेयर बी ने अपनी फर्स्ट चूज करी तो प्लेयर ए को क्या रिटर्न मिलेगा? आई रिपीट माई क्वेश्चन. इफ प्लेयर ए इज नॉट चूजिंग हिज फर्स्ट स्ट्रैटेजी and player B is choosing his first strategy, what will be the return expected payoff? 4, because A is not choosing A1, so that means A is choosing A2 and B has chosen B1, so what will be the combination of A2 B1? 4. Note it down. This is the value which player A can expect if he is choosing A2 and B is choosing B1. Similarly, next point, if B choose B2, then what is the return? 3, provided A is not choosing A1, that means P1 is 0. Similarly, for B3, 2 and B4, 6. These 4 numbers I got. 4, 3, 2 and 6. When do I am getting these numbers? When P1 is 0. So, on the graph where I shown you P1 as 0, on that line or on a vertical line, make a point 4, a point 3, a point 2 and a point 6 and name it as B1, B2, B3 and B4. For now I am assuming, if in case player A is not choosing A1, what is the gain I am getting? Now similarly, if P1 is 1, what does it mean? Player A is surely choosing his first strategy and only first strategy. So what will be the expected gain of A if player B choose B1 in that case? 2. And if B choose B2 then? And for B3 and for B4? Minus 2. These values you will plot for P1 equals to 1. P1 0, 1 horizontal line, 1 vertical line. P1 1, another vertical line. On P1 0 you plotted the points 4, 3, 2 and 6. Yes? On P1 0 you already plotted 4, 3, 2 and 6. Cross लगा रहे हैं उन points पे, उन heights पे. P1 1 पे आपने 2, 2, 3 and minus 2 पे point लगा दिया. Now join these B1 with B1, B2 with B2, B3 with B3 and B4 with B4. You will get 4 lines. Right? Now I'll come back to the graph. You will get 4 lines. The line with the orange color, purple and blue and red, these are the 4 lines pertaining to B1, B2, B3 and B4. Now once you get these lines, if player A is having 2 strategies and B is having many, what was the principle A was following to find the best strategy? Maximum principle. Maximum principle means expecting the minimum gain from each strategy and then trying to maximize it by choosing the best strategy. So in the graphical method, the green portion which is colored as a green, ये बाद में green shade हुआ है, पहले सिर्फ line plot होंगी, 4 line plot होगी. उन चारों line में से जो नीचे की तरफ जो lines होंगी, the lowest the lines below which there is no other line, that will be called as lower envelope. I repeat, the envelope which is getting formed with the lines which are at the lowest height, that means below those lines there will be no other line. That will be the lowest envelope, and in that lowest envelope, finding out the highest point will be nothing but your maximum point. Minimum, that means lower envelope, और उस minimum का maximum, that is the highest peak of that lower envelope. That's the same strategy which we applied, वो graphically translate करी गई है. जो maximum strategy का principle था वो graphical में translate होके कैसे हुआ कि अगर player A के पास दो strategy है तो वो लगाता था maximum principle, maximum में lower envelope का highest point. वो highest point किन दो लाइनों के intersection से आ रहा है? Orange and red. Orange is for B4 and red is for B3. That means these two, B3 and B4, are the best strategies for player B, pertaining to A1 and A2 as the best strategies for player A. Now I am left with a 2 by 2 matrix. Sorry, where was the... So after this, I'll write it down here. What do I do? Now out of A1, A2, B1 to B4, I will be left with what? Only B3, B4. I have reduced the size from 2 cross 4 to 2 by 2. How? How we have reduced the size? By graphical method. How by graphical method? By selecting, or you can say by removing out the inferior strategies of player B, and that is done based on the expected payoff of A. For each of his strategy, we have found the expected payoff and we plotted the graph and we applied the maximum principle. अगर player A की दो नहीं होती, player B की दो strategy होती और A की ज़्यादा होती, अभी तो 2 cross 4 था ना, 2 cross 4 में मैंने P1 P2 strategy नाम दिया और B के लिए हमने excess inferior strategies remove करी. अगर प्लेयर ए की स्ट्रैटेजी ज़्यादा होती है और बी का दो होती, दैट मीन्स लेट्स सपोज अगर ये 4 क्रॉस 2 होता तो हम क्या करते? मिनी मैक्स में क्या होता? अपर एनवलप मैक्सिमम चूज कर रिप्रेजेंट करता और उसका लोएस्ट पॉइंट जिन दो लाइंस के इंटरसेक्शन से बनता वो दो लाइन बेस्ट स्ट्रैटेजी ए की सेलेक्ट हो जाती और बी की दो ही थी तो उस केस में अगेन विल गेट अ 2 by 2 matrix. That means the purpose of choosing a graphical method is to reduce any 2 cross n or m cross 2 matrix into a 2 by 2 matrix. After once I get a 2 by 2 matrix, what do I do in a mixed strategy case? Simply I'll apply the formula of finding out P1, P2, Q1, Q2 and the value of the game which we have already noted for 2 by 2 matrix. And finally in the answer, as B1 and B2 are removed out, what will be the probability of selecting B1 and B2 by the player B? As in the final matrix, I am having just A1, A2 and B3, B4. What will be the probability of selecting B1 and B2 by player B? 0. They are removed out from this. They are the inferior strategies. They are not been chosen by player B. So that means the probability will be 0. And for B3 and B4, the probability will be Q1 and Q2, which I will find out through the formula, and P1 and P2 for the strategy A1 and A2 by the player A, and the values of P1, P2 and Q1, Q2 can be obtained through the formula which we have seen in the 2 by 2 matrix. Okay? Yeah. The question one? This one? Steps which are, okay. We have 15 minutes, right? Time is up? It's 1:15 now. We have class till 1:30. 15 मिनट बचे हैं ना, आप कह रहे हैं ख़त्म हो गया. 11:30 to 1:30 it is. Just one more case. First mixed strategy was 2 by 2. In case if it is not a 2 by 2, what was the next possibility we have assumed? It could be 2 cross n or m cross 2. What if it is not 2 by 2, it is neither 2 by 2 nor 2 cross n or m cross 2. It could be any m cross n. मतलब ना ही प्लेयर ए के पास दो स्ट्रैटेजीज हैं, ए के पास भी दो से ज़्यादा स्ट्रैटेजीज हैं और बी के पास भी दो से ज़्यादा स्ट्रैटेजीज हैं. अब सैडल पॉइंट भी नहीं है. अब कैसे हम वैल्यू ऑफ द गेम डिटरमाइन करेंगे? अगेन द policy, or you can say the concept will apply is we'll try to remove the inferior strategies of both the players. अभी तो हम एक player के with the help of graphical method what we was trying to do, whichever player was having more than 2 strategies, we was removing the inferior strategy of that player. In case if both the players are having more than 2 strategies, I'll try and remove the extra inferior strategies of both the players with the help of dominance rule. That is the last method. That rule is called dominance rule. Dominance means it came from the word dominate. So if any strategy is dominating any other strategy, that means the inferior strategy is the one which will get dominated by the dominating strategy. So inferior strategy will be removed out. How to decide which strategy is a dominating strategy and which strategy is an inferior strategy? Yes, by the payoff matrix. Let's see how with the example. Okay, so this is a payoff matrix where you are having 4 cross 4 matrix size. A company is currently involved in negotiation with its union on the, I just showed you this example also. Union and company is there and the payoff values are given to me. Now first step of solving a game is find the maximum and minimax point. Try to find out the saddle point, because if saddle point is there, you don't need to do anything further. But you will realize after solving that there is no saddle point in this case as well. So as there is no saddle point, next step, look for the size. Is it 2 by 2? No. Is it 2 cross any or any other number cross 2? No. That means graphical is out for now. What is the size? 4 by 4. Now the only method left with me right now is dominance principle. Other than dominance, if in case you would like to solve it with the other methods, then simplex algorithm, if you have learnt in linear programming, the simplex algorithm, yes, if, yeah, the one which was very complex, that simplex algorithm, for those who felt it as complex, I can say that yes, otherwise it is very simple. That can be always applied in a game theory. The game theory problem can always be converted into a linear programming problem, and so every linear programming problem can always be solved by simplex method. So, but yes, right now we are learning all the other methods as simplex is already learnt by you in other course. So, what is this dominance principle and what this principle is going to help me with? With the help of dominance principle, I am trying to remove the inferior strategy. Inferior strategy कैसे निकालें? Row wise, the payoff values, what are they representing? What are the row values representing? They are representing the gain of A. If I look at to the first row values and I compare it with any other row values, and the corresponding value of any row, it could be first row or second row, whichever row I am comparing it with others, if the values, corresponding values are less or equal to any other row values, then the row which is having a less values, that row will be called as Inferior row, obviously, because that is giving me less of the profits, less of the gains. So why I as a player A will ever choose that strategy? If I am not getting much gain through that strategy, that I always will neglect, I will always ignore that strategy, and so that row can be removed. By removing a row, I am reducing the size of the matrix, mind it. The objective of mine is to reduce the size to 2 by 2. So if any row, can you see any row which is inferior? Fourth row compared to fourth row values minus 0.02. If I compare to the third row even, what is the situation? 0.35 is greater than minus 0.02. Then 0.08 is equals to 0.08. Third value 0.13 is greater than 0.15 is greater than 0.13 and 0.19 is greater than 0. The three values are greater, one value is equal. Am I right? This is greater than this is equal, this is greater than this is greater than this. So the row which is having inferior values, that can be removed. So I'll strike off that row, I'll remove that row. After removing that row, similarly for the player B, which strategy will be inferior? Because for the player B, the payoff values are representing the loss. The losses are like, if any strategy is giving more loss, that is an inferior strategy for player B. So for player B, the inferior strategy will be the one which will have the greater values as compared to any other column values, any other column corresponding values. So after removing U4, can you see any of the column which is inferior? If I compare C1 with C2, what is the situation? 0.25 is greater than 0.2, 0.27 is greater than 0.16 and 0.35 is greater than 0.08. All the three values of column C1 are greater than the column values of C2. In this case, which column I will remove out? C1, because that is an inferior strategy for player B. He will never opt for it. Similarly, if I compare C3 and C4, just see C3 and C4, what is the situation? C4, 0.3 is greater than 0.14, then 0.14 is greater than 0.12, 0.19 is greater than 0.15. All the three values of C4 are greater than the corresponding values of C3. So C4 can be removed. So after removing C1, C4 and also U4, how much I left with? C2 and C3, two strategies of player B and three strategies. In case if I still be able to remove any other strategy through dominance rule, that will be a win-win situation. But otherwise also, if I have reached to that stage of 3 cross 2, at least one player is having two strategy. So graphical can be applicable. At this point, graphical can be applied. But let me try with the dominance first. Is any strategy still is inferior? Compare and see if any strategy is inferior. U2, if I compare with U1, what is happening? U2 value 0.16 is less than 0.2 and 0.12 is less than 0.14. So U2 is inferior to U1. So U2 will be removed out. What I will be left with? A 2 by 2 matrix having U1, U3 and C2, C3. And with a 2 by 2 matrix, now what do I do? I'll assign probability P1 and P2 for the strategy U1 and U3 and Q1 and Q2 for the strategy C2 and C3, and the same formula where A11 is 0.2, A12 is 0.14, A21 is 0.08 and A22 is 0.13. These values I'll apply in the formula which we have seen. and we'll get the values of P1, P2, Q1, Q2 and the value of the game. What does it mean? What I got? I got the probability of selecting the strategies by the players, and by having that probability, what is the expected gain or the loss, what the player may expect. That is what I am obtaining through that. Okay. I'll just give a recap what we have done so far. We started with the payoff matrix, what the payoff matrix represents, how to read and how to understand the payoff matrix. If it is written with respect to a player A, I can always translate or convert it into player B's term by taking a transpose, negative transpose of it. That is the first thing we have learned. Few terminologies like what is game, what are the players, what do you mean a strategy, and what is the payoff matrix. Say again. Matrix transpose. I said converting rows into columns and columns into rows is called negative transpose. Means the transpose values put a negative sign against all the transpose values because the original matrix was representing the profit of A and the loss of B. जो मैट्रिक्स को रोज को कॉलम में चेंज कर दिया, रोज को समझ आ गया नेगेटिव ट्रांसपोज. I'll write it down for you. Let's suppose if it is a 2 by 2 matrix only, and I have A11, A12, A21 and A22. Then the transpose of this will be what? A11, A12, and the negative transpose is the negative of all the values of this. Why? Because now this is for player B. This is representing the profit of player B. If A11 is a loss of player B and I want to tell it in terms of profit, how do I say? The negative of the loss is the profit. For example, if the values are, let's suppose, 4, -7, 2 and say 9. Okay. What this 4 was representing? If it is with respect to player A, what is 4 representing? Loss of player B, 4 rupees loss for player B. If he chooses first strategy and player A chooses first strategy, this loss, if I have to write in respect to player B, how do I show this loss in the profit matrix? -4. So if I write with respect to B, what do I write? -4, and this -7 is what? In this matrix, it's a 7 rupees gain of player B. Right? So if in the gain matrix I have to write the same, what do I write? 7 plus 7, because that is the gain of player B when he is choosing his second strategy. Right?
Then what is the purpose of taking a transpose?
What I am saying is, if we had written the payoff matrix with respect to player A, if I am a player A, I am developing the payoff matrix with respect to my game. If you are a player B, you will develop your payoff matrix with respect to your game. Right? So, if I am determining the game, I will have a payoff matrix where I am showing my profit and my loss. If you are developing your game, the payoff matrix of you will be showing your profit and your loss. Okay? Any other doubt? Any other doubt to anyone? Not a single strategy. As it's not a single strategy case, you will get the combination of two strategies. There is a 53% chance that you will choose U1 and 46% chance that you will choose U2. And similarly for C1, the other player, the chances are 0.7% and 3%. So whatever the value I get, the value which I am getting as 14360, this is what the value I can expect from this game. I as a player A. C1 and C3. With respect to player A, with respect to you? Why? See, look at it. Is it the saddle point?
No.
Then?
But probability is taken.
High probability is there, and based on that only this expectation has been obtained. Probability है, surety नहीं है. Okay, so any further doubt? This is the formula which we had seen in the slides. I'll show you. This is coming from here. The formula for P1 and P2 is the same. Okay? Okay, so after learning the payoff matrix, we try to find out the saddle point through maximum and minimax principle. Also, we realize that if there is no saddle point, then how to find the value of the game through the three different methods. If the size is 2 by 2, then the direct expectation formula is there. If the size is 2 cross n or m cross 2, then the graphical method, and the last was the dominance rule. Right? So there are the three methods, and apart from this, you can always apply simplex algorithm by converting the same problem into linear programming and solving it using simplex algorithm. You can always convert a game theory into a simplex. Yeah, that's all for this class. Any doubts, any queries? If you have, please ask me. Or if you want any doubt class, we can request the organizers to give me an online holding. Next class will not be on this topic. So for the doubts and queries of this topic, if you want, I can request them to arrange an online class. But the next theory class will be on some other unit. This is unit 8, the last unit of your syllabus. So this is a case.